All right, so picture this. You're in Slack, you need some info, maybe from like your Salesforce account. But instead of having to like tab over and dig through dashboards, you just ask. That's the AI agent promise that Slack is making right now. And today's deep dive is all about figuring out like what's real and what's hype. We're looking at a September 16th article from VentureBeat. It's titled, Get This, Slack Now Lets Users Add AI Agents. And it's not just like one or two, it's every company under the sun. We're talking Asana, Cohere, Adobe, even Salesforce itself is in on this. Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, like what are these agents? It's got to be more than just a chatbot, right?
Oh, way more, yeah. It's like, think about each app you use now is like a store, right? You go to each one, browse around to get what you need. These AI agents are more like personal shoppers.
Yeah.
You tell them what you want, and they go to all those different stores and bring it to you right there in Slack.
Okay, that's actually pretty convenient. The article actually quotes Slack's own CPO, Rob Seaman, as saying that these agents let you, quote, talk to your data. So this is about actually doing stuff, not just like, making small talk with a bot.
Exactly. Like one example from the article is Agentforce. It's basically this direct line to all your Salesforce data, but you're just in Slack the whole time. Need your latest sales numbers? Just ask. Need to update a client's contact info? Boom, done. All without, like, alt-tabbing a million times.
Okay, so far so good, but Slack must have some bigger plan, right? They didn't just wake up and decide to reinvent apps. What's the strategy here?
I think Seaman actually nails it in the article, information overload. We're drowning in apps, notifications, and it's killing our productivity, or at least that's the idea. So these AI agents, they're Slack's attempt to fix it. Take over the boring stuff, make info instantly accessible. In theory, that frees us up to do more, big picture work.
Yeah, makes sense. It still feels like we're at the very beginning of this whole thing, though, right? Like, is everyone going to be working with their own little AI helper soon?
It's a trend to watch, for sure. But to answer your question, widespread adoption, not a guarantee. Remember, these agents are still in their early stages, and it really comes down to whether people actually trust them to do important work. And that actually brings us to some of the concerns that the article mentions about all of this.
Okay, so AI agents, maybe there are new work BFFs helping us do more, get less bogged down in the day-to-day. But I guess we have to talk about the downsides, too. Are we all just, like, giving away our digital security for a little more efficiency? What could go wrong here?
It's definitely something to consider, like giving these AI agents access to our data, even if it's supposed to, make our work lives easier. It's a little, I don't know, it feels a little risky.
Yeah, for sure. And the article mentions this thing called, like, API contracts as part of how Slack is handling security. What even is that?
Okay, so APIs basically, they're like messengers that let different apps talk to each other,
Right.
right? Like when you use your Facebook login for Spotify, that's an API doing its thing in the background. An API contract is like setting the rules for that conversation. So in this case, it controls what info the AI can see and what it can do.
So it's like a digital bouncer for our data keeps the AI agent from getting out of control.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to limit the agent's power, make sure it only gets access to what it needs for the task at hand. But having said that, it's still new, this whole AI thing, and the article does mention some people are, like, hesitant.
Yeah, because it's one thing for an AI to, like, book a meeting for you, but what about writing reports or, I don't know, evaluating my job performance? That's where I start to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's not even just about, like, robots taking our jobs. The article talks about fairness, too. What if some people at a company get these fancy AI tools, but others don't? Doesn't that give them, like, an unfair advantage?
Right, right.
These are all things we really have to think about as AI becomes a bigger part of how we work.
It's like any new tool. I guess depends how you use it, right? It feels like we're at this turning point, you know? Like the article mentions companies that get AI, like really figure it out. They could come out way ahead, but those that don't, they might get left behind.
Yeah, 100%. Think about like the early days in the internet, right? Some companies, they saw the potential, adapted, and they thrived. Others, well, they stuck with the old ways.
And this whole article is so focused on work, but it got me thinking, what about AI agents in our like personal lives?
Oh, interesting. Right. What if you had this AI that managed not just your work calendar, but like everything? Recommending books you'd actually like, drafting emails in your voice.
Yeah.
Kind of like a super efficient but digital assistant.
It's a cool thought, but also kind of scary, don't you think?
Totally.
Like on the one hand, imagine getting that time back, not having to deal with so much day-to-day stuff. But then it's like, how much control are we giving up?
It's like some sci-fi movie, right?
Yeah.
And we're just figuring it out as we go.
Exactly. And that's why these conversations are so important. It's not about saying yes or no to AI. It's about understanding it and deciding how we want it to fit into our lives.
So for everyone listening, AI agents, they're coming to Slack, probably to your workplace sooner than later. But it's bigger than that, right? It's about how we work, maybe even how we live going forward. Yeah, the important thing is to stay informed, be curious, don't be afraid to ask questions. Because the way we use AI, that's up to us.
That is a perfect place to end it, folks. So that wraps up this deep dive. Hopefully, you're feeling a little smarter, a little more ready for whatever the AI powered future throws at us. Until next time, keep those brains engaged.